All right. The worst selling pay-per-views in WWE history by Wrestling Gifts. Uh yeah, let's get into it.
A few days ago on the channel, we talked about the most successful WWE pay-per-views of all time. From WrestleMania 28 to the Invasion show, it was a fascinating
Oh,
dive
the
into the most
Invasion
bought
show.
shows in the company's history that really showed what the fans connected with over the years on pay-per-view. But now it's time to take a look at the other side. It's time to take a look at the shows that failed to get the fans to spend their money. From pay-per-views that didn't meet expectations to straight up flops and to, of course, the top 5 least bought pay-per-views of all time, we got a lot to talk about. Let's
Yeah.
get straight into it. Let's start off by talking about the disappointments. These are shows that were not necessarily total flops or got horrible buy rates, but are quality shows that had good cards on paper that honestly should have done better than they did. And we begin with Survivor Series 2002, which did just
Oh, really?
340,000 buys. Survivor Series
I
02 is a very iconic show, right? This is
I love Survivor Series 2002. Are you serious? It's on the list for the worst performing. This was like the inaugural elimination chamber. There was so much going on this. I loved Survivor Series 2002.
a legendary show from MSG, the first ever Elimination Chamber, Lesnar losing the title for the first time. This is a classic show in every way, but when it took place, it failed to get the buys it deserved.
That's
This was back when
crazy.
Survivor Series still kind of meant something, right? So this was still a big for a classic pay-per-view that more often than not did 400,000 buys. The year before they did 400,000 plus buys, the year after they did 400,000 plus buys, but for some reason the O2 edition
Wow.
just failed to sell.
That's
340,000
crazy.
isn't
I didn't
bad,
know
but with
that.
that star power, a brand new match type, this being a 200,000 buy drop from SummerSlam '02, it was rough. And I guess you just have to chalk it up to people didn't know what the an elimination chamber was. And to
Right.
be fair, it does sound
Right.
like something out of Nazi Germany, so I don't blame them. But you add in the fact that Big Show was in the title match, like, alright, bro, a disappointing number for sure for a show that definitely deserved better for an all-time classic. And
Yeah, it really
surprisingly,
is a
this is gonna
classic.
be a common thing because you know what other show did a surprisingly disappointing number? This one hurts to say, but Money in the Bank 2011, which did only 205,000 buys.
Really?
Yo, this one hurts. Money in the Bank 2011 is
Really?
another iconic legendary show. From the main event to the banger ladder matches, this is a top 5 pay-per-view in terms of quality for many wrestling fans. And for so many of us, this was
Yeah,
such a
this
huge
this is a fantastic pay-per-view. Like, this one is so good. This is one of the first ones I remember watching live. Uh, this one is, like, in my opinion, one of the top tier ones. That's crazy that nobody bought it. That's insane.
hugely insanely hyped up show because it took place after the pipe bomb. The pipe bomb was something that lit the wrestling world on fire, and to this day you'll hear people say, yeah, the pipe bomb brought me back to wrestling, but it's like, how did this show only do 30,000 more buys than Capital Punishment? That stupid ass show. Which look,
Yeah, that one was
30,000 is still a
dumb.
really good
That was
increase, and
bad.
cracking 200,000 as a non-Big Four show in 2011 was great, but this number always just felt kind of disappointing. Like, this didn't even beat Extreme Rules 2011. It's not a bad number, it's not a flop by any means, just a tiny bit disappointing, and I guess
Yeah.
more shocking than anything. One show that has always been considered a disappointment in terms of buys since the numbers came out that I actually disagree with is sadly SummerSlam 2013 with 332,000 buys. Once
Really?
again, a classic pay-per-view with banger matches, a universally beloved show, disappointed in the buy rate. I'm gonna be
Yeah, I
honest though, I
think
don't think
this one was super
332,000 is
good.
a disappointment. I think it was a solid number. It was still the third most bought show of the year. You had a new star in the main event. In my eyes, it did solid, but the reason it's here is because Vince McMahon later in 2013 went out and called it a disappointment on an investor's call and said, SummerSlam was not the right attraction. You don't knock them all out of the park. That one was a swing and a miss.
That's so crazy for him to say, because I remember this fondly, right? I remember this SummerSlam fondly. This was a fantastic SummerSlam. So good. But, I don't want to know what's going on in Vince's head. I'll be honest with you. This is a case where I just would rather just be like, Vince is an idiot and not try to understand what he's saying, because he is without a doubt an idiot.
Which to me just shows that the expectations were just way too high for this. Yeah, it was a drop from SummerSlam 2012, I get that, but it still did better than SummerSlam 2011. But in the eyes of the company, this was a disappointment. But moving on, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the pay-per-view flops. Shows that honestly were just straight up flops. And might as well start off with the most shocking flop of them all,
Maybe this might
WrestleMania
be better
19,
for the
which did
mic.
just 565,000 buys. Yo, listen, how the hell do you have a WrestleMania that
That's
has Rock,
insane.
Austin, Hogan, Lesnar, Triple H, and everyone else do less buys in the Rumble that year? How the hell do you
Whoa.
put together one of the most stacked cards in wrestling history and do the lowest Mania buy rate since 1997? What the fuck was this? This buy rate will never not be shocking to me. Not only did this end up being an amazing show, even going into it, to me, this show was so good on paper, yet it flopped. I'm never gonna understand it. Over the years, I've done a lot of research and looked into this to see why this happened, and many theories and opinions have been shared. Many have said that the overemphasis on Vince versus Hogan led
I could see that. I honestly, if you would ask me my opinion, I would think it was probably the Vince versus Hogan. Like, because nobody wants to see Vince wrestle. Like, you got a whole company. Put somebody else against Hogan. Like, at this point, not a lot of people want to see Hogan wrestle either. To be fair, but he is still a draw. He is still major. I think it was stupid to make him wrestle Vince. Like, Vince is not on anybody's card to watch wrestle any time of the year.
to the low buy rate, because a lot of the promotion for this WrestleMania did make it seem like Vince versus Hogan was the main event, and then a lot of people didn't want to see Rock versus Austin for the third time. It was predictable that of course
Yeah.
Rock was gonna win, but it's like okay, I get that, but still. 560,000. Listen, I don't care if the main event was my mom versus my dad. This show should have done at least 750. At the
Oh, that was the show that that Brock Lesnar almost killed himself. Oh my gosh. I forgot about that. No way. Yeah, that was a crazy show.
very least, but nah, one of the biggest flops of all time. And honestly, in terms of flop, this is the biggest flop of all time. I think it's pretty clear now that the quality of the show doesn't matter because the buys come in before the show even takes place, and sometimes, as we can see, the card on paper doesn't matter either. Sometimes
Yeah.
people just don't want to spend money on the product, and that was evident in 03 because even after WrestleMania 19, the next month they had another flop with Backlash 03 doing just 345,000 buys. Now at first
Yeah.
I was going to put this under disappointments because 345,000 isn't bad for a Backlash, but this was Goldberg versus Rock, okay? This was
Yeah.
Goldberg.
At this point, that would have been a massive match. Right? Like, Goldberg is still at the height of his career. This would have been a top tier match. This should have sold so much more. But I don't know. We look at Goldberg now a little bit differently than we did back then. That's for sure. But yeah, I think it's crazy to me that this didn't sell well.
Goldberg's first match in the WWE, his first US wrestling match since 2000, his basically debut match in the company against The Rock, Mr. Hollywood, and they did the fourth worst buy rate of the year? Wait, what? Now, granted, not having a world title on the line probably didn't help. Poor Booker T, man.
Yeah.
He never got that leg back after WrestleMania. But still, I gotta say, this was a flop, not a disappointment. People just didn't want to see Rock versus Goldberg. It's as simple as that. I don't think it's because, oh, Goldberg is not a draw. They just didn't want to see Rock versus Goldberg. Goldberg's
That also could be another thing. Like, this goes back to the same thing I was saying about Vince. There are a lot of people in that company you could want to see against Goldberg, and The Rock on paper makes a lot of sense. But when you think about it for just a little bit longer, there's probably somebody else in the company that would do a better job at promoting it and probably put on a better match.
first show back should have done a huge number, but it was just all right, 345,000, yay, boo, woohoo, great. And to me, I always wonder, what if they were just like, yo, fuck it, let's do a Goldberg versus Triple H for the world title, Backlash 03, his first matches for the world title, and he actually wins the world title. I really wonder what the buyer would have been then, because when they did do Triple H versus Goldberg, even after they kind of ruined it at SummerSlam 03, they still did 365,000 buys at Unforgiven. Imagine what they could have done if they did it right away at Backlash. They 100% would have touched 400,000 plus. Before we
Yeah,
move on though,
probably.
ladies and gentlemen, here is a vintage flop from 1997.
Oh, wow.
Did you know, fun fact, WrestleMania 13 did only 237,000 buys.
Wow.
This is the lowest WrestleMania buy rate ever. The company
Wow.
97 was pretty solid, right? But early 97 was still kind of rough after the fumes of 1996 were still there. And Undertaker versus Sid as your main event, yo, that's an ugly sight.
I love Psycho Sid. I'm gonna say this now. I love Undertaker. I love Psycho Sid. But this is a main event is bad. This could have main evented SummerSlam and probably done a lot of better. But for Mania, for the title, I don't know. And this is like Psycho Sid's second run in the company. Um, I think his first run when he came back with Shawn Michaels, when Shawn Michaels was champion, would have been a great Mania main event. But I think now, at that point, it's not a great idea. Not a great idea. I think it was a good match, but it's still not a Mania main event, right? And this is when they had one night. This could have opened and done extremely well. Could have been mid match or mid event. Could have done extremely well, but not main event.
But yo, still 237,000 buys for a WrestleMania. What the hell was wrong with them? To put that into perspective, WCW's pay-per-view the same month back in March of 97, Uncensored 97, which didn't even have a world title match in the main event, did 325,000 buys. A random B tier.
This is because WCW was hot. You were at the height of the NWO, your height of Sting fighting the NWO. You were at the height of WCW. WCW would start to fall soon after that. And honestly, if I go back and watch like show for show, I prefer WCW. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I prefer WCW over WWE. And I think I'm going to do a series on that pretty soon where we go show for show, shot for shot, on the Monday Night Wars. So you're hearing it here first. But yeah, I completely agree. I think WCW was at its hottest point right now, right then. And for WWE to put on a shoddy show, like it had some good matches on it. I'm not knocking it. But for them not to be 100%, this is the best show we can produce, that was their fault.
WCW pay-per-view outdrew WrestleMania. This just shows how ahead WCW was in 97. Yo, WCW really blew a 3-1 lead in the finals, didn't they? But
They really did.
237,000, it's pathetic, and it's a shame because Brett versus Austin, they deserved all the buys. On a side note though, you know what pay-per-views always did poorly and really surprised me? The Taboo Tuesday / Cyber Sunday shows from 04 to 2008. Yeah, they all did pretty fucking bad. Really bad. I used to
Yeah.
adore these shows as a kid, okay? To me, these were so magical, so special, and so fun, so
That's because it was
fascinating. The
all
possibilities were
rigged.
endless. Sometimes. Gee, I wonder which one's gonna win. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I was just a little slow as a kid, but just the idea was so cool to me. It was just such a
I agree. The idea is super fun, but it was obviously rigged. Like they knew what was going on. I think if they could do this and prove that it was not rigged, like right now, like if they came out Monday, like 3 o'clock, said, "Hey, we're doing, this person versus this person. Vote on the stipulation, just kind of like this," and that was what we got. I would be super happy with it. I think that'd be super sick. I think it's a great use of social media in today's time. But yeah, back then when they're doing Cyber Sunday, it was very obvious it was not. Your vote didn't matter.
fun time, and honestly still is. They should really bring this back. But the sad reality is, these shows every year just did not sell whatsoever. Taboo Tuesday '04 is pathetic because this show did only 174,000
Wow,
buys,
yeah,
the
that's
lowest of
not good.
2004, the lowest pay-per-view buyer they've had at this point since 1997. And what makes it even sadder is it's not just the buy rate, this is one of the lowest attended pay-per-views ever. Wait,
Yeah.
no, I forgot. No, this is the lowest attended pay-per-view ever. Only 3,500 people were in attendance. You know how
No
sad that is?
way.
Okay, do you know how sad that is? That's like P. Diddy baby oil bottle numbers. What? How there was a pay-per-view in '04 only in front of 3,500 people? And why was this show in an arena that fits 18,000? Ric Flair was out here bleeding all over the ring for no reason.
That is a good, like, metric for this because they're in a huge arena and only sold 3,500 IRL seats. That's awful. That's horrible for a PLE, pay-per-view PLE, whatever you wanna call it, a main show. That is awful. They probably sold more on Raw the following night than they did for Cyber Sunday. And that one of these things is, like, we're forgetting about ticket price, right? Like, ticket price right now is what keeps me from going to almost any PLE. Like, there's a couple of them that have been around me that I could have driven to and made a weekend out of it and had fun. But the ticket price is so high that I couldn't afford nosebleeds and to find a place to stay for even just the night of. So I would have to go to the event. Like the Atlanta would be one of the closest ones with Bad Blood. I thought about going to Bad Blood. It was going to cost me like three 350 for the ticket, for a nosebleed ticket, plus, you know, as a about 8 hours of driving. So I'm probably in over $100 in gas, food. I'm a big boy, I like to eat. You'll probably easily put down $80 in food, not including whatever I eat at the stadium, which is overpriced. Um, so we're, budgetary. We're looking at $700 for one event, and Bad Blood sucked. that That's just the meat and potatoes of it all. Um, it was not good. So yeah, it's just kind of like I would love to go to these, but the cost is so high, and I don't know about the cost back then, right? Like I was still 2004. I was in like first grade. There's no way I could tell you what anything cost in first grade. Um, but I think that could play a factor in that he might not be talking about. And I mean, it's hard to know. Inflation and the economy, it changes so rapidly that there's no real way to know, like, if these tickets are overpriced or not. But at the rate that they were selling them, they should have been out in the street giving them out just to fill seats.
For 3,500 people and 170,000 people on pay-per-view. How sad do you think Triple H was when he had to do his water spit thing into the camera and there was just like darkness behind the camera? '05 the next year flopped again, and it was like, okay, maybe it's just people don't want to buy shows on Tuesday. That was legit their reasoning on why
True.
Taboo Tuesday flopped, which never made sense to me, because it's like, what difference does it make if it's a Tuesday or a Sunday? People watch Raw on Monday, like what difference does it make? So they moved it to Sunday, and you know what, color me surprised, it actually worked out.
Okay, quick point about that. Most people work on Tuesdays, right? I work on Tuesdays. I don't get home till probably about 5:45, 6 o'clock. If you start a pay-per-view at 6 o'clock, I will probably miss it because I'm going to take a shower, I'm going to eat dinner. I might be able to watch it during dinner, but I'm going to miss the first little part of it. Right? Like, people have responsibilities on Tuesdays. I'm not saying they don't on Sundays, but less people have things to do. Like, they, may go to church on Sunday morning. They probably aren't doing anything Sunday night. Why it sells better on Sunday.
Cyber Sunday '06, they did see an improvement, but by '07 and then '08, it just went down, down, down. And by Cyber Sunday '08, they did 153,000 buys. What?
That's
How can
crazy.
these shows that are controlled by the fans, controlled by the people, do so bad? Is it because nothing important ever happens on the? Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah,
But
they
still,
could also
you know what?
really
I don't
do it.
care. I blame the '08 buy rate on Big Show and his fat ass and his stupid match with the Undertaker. It's all his fault. GG. I don't care. But okay, let's move on to the top 5 worst bot
Top
pay-per-views
five. All
in
right.
WWE history. Oh man. So this is the bottom of the barrel, the worst of the worst, the least bought shows in the company's history, and we're talking about legit 3-hour pay-per-views, okay? No international shows, no 2-hour in your houses that were only $14. No, these were full price, $30+ shows, full-length pay-per-views, and at number 5, it's Over the Limit 2011 with 145,000 buys. Listen, any show that has Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler in a Kiss My Foot match, what kind of
Yes.
nasty ass
Oh,
shit was it,
yeah.
deserves this buy rate. And first of all,
This was during an era where it was weird to watch WWE. Like, they had no true competition. Like, TNA was about the only thing they had in the United States, and TNA was rocky at best. So they could just do kind of whatever they wanted and people would pay attention. And it made for some of the worst, worst, worst pay-per-view matches like this.
well, whoever has
There's no reason for this foot to ever be on anybody's screen, for one. Number two, Michael Cole to have an actual match. Number three, for Jerry the King Lawler to be wrestling at that age, right?
that nasty Michael Cole foot fetish backstage needs to be shot. Second, why is Chavo taking on Sin Cara? Is this an episode of Superstars? And yeah, I don't think by this point anybody wanted to watch John Cena versus The Miz again in an I Quit match. I hate this match, by the way. This was such a typical PG era, like, just clown fest.
Yeah.
I can't.
PG era was
145,000
so
buys for this.
bad.
No surprise here. At number 4, it was Bragging Rights 2010 with 137,000 buys. I watched this show live actually. Did I order it? Hell no. Shout out to First Row Sports. All the old heads remember. By 2010, SmackDown vs. Raw meant as much as like those stupid clickbait GTA 6 leaked videos we used to see all the time on YouTube. But by
Yeah.
this point, Nexus was down so bad it wasn't even funny. Adding old men trying to bury each other alive. This was rough. And after a great
This is just
SummerSlam
not a good
2010
one.
buy rate, which they threw
I think that it's sad because I think in a different era, different time, this one could have done really well with the exact same people on it. But not the PG era.
50,000 buys. Everything just kept declining and declining, and by October, this show felt the damage. Rest in peace, Nexus. They put Cena's career on the line, or either Wade Bear was going to become champion, one or the other, as the main event stipulations, and nobody cared. And only 137,000 people tuned in. Just
Also, because they've done a really good job of making the brand split feel important recently. But for a long time, it was super wishy-washy. Like, the brand split would mean something, and then it wouldn't mean anything. And then you have these shows like Bragging Rights where they're fighting against, the brands are fighting against each other. But then what does it mean Monday when you get there and Rey Mysterio's got a match with somebody on the Raw roster? Like, that's what bothered me the most. And I kind of hope we get these like Bragging Rights style matches back. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And especially with the rosters we've got now and the GMs that are ready to go at each other's heads, I think it could be a super cool event if done right.
dark times. Number 3, Vengeance 2011 with 121,000 buys. Yo, when Alberto Del Rio versus John Cena is your main event of your pay-per-view,
Yikes.
how mentally insane do you have to be to actually expect people to pay for it? This show was a trip. I remember the ring break, so I remember Big Show versus Mark Henry. I don't remember anything else from this show whatsoever. Apparently CM Punk and Triple H teamed up together. What? Hey Punk, I'm gonna bury you at Night of Champions after your little summer of Punk, but then let's team up together. What in the blue hell was this show? But still though, I thought with Triple H, Punk, and Cena and Orton being on one show, you would think it would
Wait. That's where this image comes from? I see this all the time. That's hilarious.
do over 121,000 buys, but nah. Number 2 on the list, Battleground 2013, 119,000 buys. This show had one awesome match, right? One just amazing match that can make a grown man cry. Curtis Axel versus R-Truth, duh. Okay, Rhodes Family versus The Shield, Dusty's Job on the Line. Great match, all-timer, amazing, right? But this show had nothing else. People actually paid to watch Punk versus Ryback in 2012. Surprisingly, they did some good buy rates. It was now 2013. They did not pay anymore. And the main event of the show was the biggest slap in the face of the fans.
I think in reality, we touched on this with one of the reactions I did last week. Ryback was super hot and then fell off like a cliff. Um, and so yeah, nobody wants to see like you could put Ryback in a mid card feud and probably be fine, but nobody wants to see him against Punk. Like give Punk Brian, give him Randy, give him somebody that's important, somebody good. But
On paper, it's like, oh, it's Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton for the vacant WWE title. That's not bad. I'm sure people are going to tune in for this. No, this was a slap in the face. This deserves the second worst buy rate ever because, guys, everybody and their mom knew going into this that Bryan was not winning the title. You know why? It's Battleground.
yeah,
Bryan had just got screwed at SummerSlam, right? You really think he's gonna win the title back at fucking Battleground 2013? It was so obvious that he wasn't winning. It was so obvious some stupid ending was gonna happen, some clown show, and guess what happened?
yeah. Was this an ironclad contract?
If I ordered a pay-per-view in 2013 and the Big Show in Big 2013 interfered and ended, I probably would have jumped out of my window. Honestly, if anyone watching this ordered the show, please comment below. If you're one of the 119,000 people,
My
please comment
friend's
below.
dad.
You might
My friend's dad would buy every single show and we'd watch them. Because we would go to church on Sunday night and we would leave church as soon as they were done, go to his house, load that sucker up, and eat some pizza. And it was chef's kiss, best night of the month every month.
be entitled to compensation. But at number one, to the surprise of absolutely no one, the least bought pay-per-view in WWE history, ECW December to Dismember 2006 with 90,000 buys. Yo, I'm surprised this got 90,000 buys. Okay, the jokes aside, the funny thing is, I'm not gonna lie, as a kid, as a stupid kid, I actually really wanted to order this show. Extreme Chamber sounded kind of cool, it sounded violent, it sounded kind
Yeah.
of fun, but thank God my mom said no, because listen, we all know how bad this was. ECW at this point was dying and dying fast, and this was the
Yeah,
final
it
nail in the
was
coffin. And when you sell a pay-per-view with only 2 matches announced in advance, it's not gonna be pretty. You know
yeah.
what though? What makes me happy is that after talking about all these classic shows that were disappointments in terms of pay-per-view buys, that were flops, blah blah blah, at least the worst bought pay-per-view ever in terms of WWE is arguably the worst pay-per-view they've ever produced. At least it works out.
I
90,000
completely
people
agree with
actually
this one.
bought
This one
this.
was
This should have
horrible.
got max 50,000. What a time. Who bought this? I want to know who bought any of the shows in the top 5. But yeah, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. These are the
Gross
biggest
sweat.
disappointments, the biggest
That
flops,
gross
and the
sweat.
worst selling pay-per-views in WWE history. It's surprising, isn't it? I don't think many people expect a Survivor Series 02 to be here, or WrestleMania 19, or
Yeah, there was a lot
Money
of
in the Bank
there was
2011.
a lot of unexpected ones on this. I'm gonna be honest with you. There was a lot that I remember fondly and being like, looking at them now, I'm surprised they didn't sell well. But I don't know. Maybe the show was just really good. It just didn't appeal to people. But I think now, I think a lot of those first ones that he talked about are remembered fondly now that might just not have been looked upon fondly beforehand.
But they are. Those shows deserve better, but hey, it is what it is, right? Once again, though, I probably missed a few, so if you ever want to do your own research on the best shows, the worst shows, or if you ever just want to nerd out and look at these figures, just go down to the description, click on the link, and the world is yours. In the comments down below, though, let me know, what is the worst pay-per-view you ever bought before back in the day? It could be WWE, TNA, I don't care what it is, just let me know down below. And also, let me know if you guys made it this far,
Thankfully,
if you're
I've
interested
never
in me
bought
doing a
one
video where I
'cause
rank
when I get to
every
the
show
point
that
where
I
I
ordered
could
as
buy
a
them,
kid back in the day.
the
I think that might be a fun
network was
idea,
out.
so let me know if you guys want to see that, alright? But yeah, it's your boy Pav, and I hope you guys enjoyed the last 2 nerdy little videos I've made. I can't wait to keep making more. Thank you guys.
Yeah, W Pav. I guess that's his name. Yeah, Pav's Wrestling Gifts. Um, this was a great video. 100% great video. I would say subscribe if you hadn't. I'm about to subscribe now. Give it a like. Great video. Yeah, I think we'll probably do some more of his videos. We'll probably do this one tomorrow. I think we'll do this one tomorrow because I want to get into wrestling WrestleQuest. WrestleQuest.